Achilles was born around the mid-12th century BCE in Phthia, in the land of the Myrmidons, a region in Thessaly, Greece. He was the son of Peleus, the king of the Myrmidons, and Thetis, a sea nymph. Thetis, wanting to protect her son from death, dipped him into the river Styx, a river that granted invulnerability to all who bathed in it. However, she held him by his heel, leaving that one spot vulnerable, which would later be his undoing. As a child, Achilles showed extraordinary strength and skills, and his mother, Thetis, sought to give him the best possible education. She entrusted him to Chiron, the wise and noble centaur, who taught him not only in the arts of combat, but also in philosophy, medicine, and music. These teachings would shape him into one of the most skilled warriors and thinkers of his time. It was prophesied that Achilles would either live a long life in obscurity or die young and gain eternal glory. His mother, Thetis, desperate to keep him from his fate of an early death, tried to disguise him as a girl and sent him to the court of King Lycomedes on the island of Scyros, hoping he would escape the fate of the Trojan War. There, Achilles lived in hiding, learning more about the intricacies of court life, but his destiny could not be avoided. The great Greek hero Odysseus discovered Achilles' whereabouts and convinced him to join the Greek army in the Trojan War, promising him eternal glory. Achilles' participation in the Trojan War is one of the most celebrated and tragic parts of Greek mythology. The war itself was sparked by the abduction of Helen, the wife of King Menelaus of Sparta, by Paris, the Prince of Troy. The Greeks, united under Menelaus, set sail for Troy to retrieve her. Achilles, the greatest warrior among the Greeks, was one of the central figures of this conflict. From the start of the war, Achilles' presence on the battlefield turned the tide in favor of the Greeks. His strength, agility, and skill in combat were unmatched. His famous shield, crafted by the god Hephaestus, was symbolic of his strength and unmatched combat prowess. Achilles was a key player in many of the war's battles, and his warriors, the Myrmidons, were feared across the land. One of the pivotal moments in the Trojan War came when Agamemnon, the leader of the Greek forces, dishonored Achilles. Agamemnon had taken Briseis, a war prize given to Achilles, causing a massive rift between them. In response, Achilles withdrew from the fighting, furious over the insult to his honor. During Achilles' absence, the tide of the war began to turn in favor of the Trojans. Without their greatest warrior, the Greeks suffered heavy losses, and many of their warriors were killed. Achilles' close companion, Patroclus, was deeply disturbed by the Greeks' suffering and asked Achilles to let him wear his armor and lead the Myrmidons into battle. Tragically, Patroclus was killed by Hector, the greatest of the Trojan warriors. This death was a turning point for Achilles, who was consumed by grief and rage. The loss of Patroclus drove Achilles back into the fight, determined to avenge his friend's death and to bring victory to the Greeks. The most iconic and celebrated moment of Achilles' war career came in his duel with Hector, the greatest of the Trojan heroes. Hector had killed Patroclus, and now Achilles sought revenge. In a battle that would determine the fate of the war, Achilles and Hector faced off in a fierce one-on-one combat. Achilles' rage and grief drove him to fight with a fury that none could withstand. Despite Hector's strength and valor, Achilles proved unstoppable, and he killed Hector in single combat. After Hector's death, Achilles dishonored his opponent by dragging his body behind his chariot around the walls of Troy. This act of desecration outraged the Trojans, but Achilles was unmoved by their pleas. It was only when Priam, Hector's father, and the king of Troy came to Achilles to beg for the return of his son's body that Achilles finally relented and allowed Hector to be properly buried. Despite his near invincibility, Achilles' fate was sealed by the one weak spot on his body, his heel. It was foretold that this spot would be the end of him. During the war, Paris, the prince of Troy, with the help of the god Apollo, shot an arrow aimed at Achilles' heel. The arrow struck the vulnerable spot, and Achilles died from the wound. Achilles' death marked the end of an era for the Greeks. His body was taken back to the Greek camp, and funeral games were held in his honor. His mother, Thetis, wept for the son she had tried so hard to protect. Though Achilles died young, his legacy lived on through the tales of his heroism, strength, and tragic fate. His story is immortalized in Homer's Iliad, and he remains one of the most famous and celebrated figures in Greek mythology. The term Achilles' heel has come to symbolize a person's greatest vulnerability, no matter how powerful they may be. Achilles embodies the paradox of the hero, a man who seeks glory and immortality through his deeds, only to be undone by his own mortality. His life and death continue to inspire countless works of literature, art, and culture, making him a timeless figure in the world of mythology. If you enjoyed this story of Achilles, the mighty Greek hero, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more legendary tales from ancient history. Dive deeper into the mythologies and uncover the stories of the heroes who shaped our world.